11/22/63 by Stephen King, Chapter 1. 1. Harry Dunning graduated with flying colors. I went to the little GED ceremony in his LHS gym at his invitation. He really had no one else, and I was happy to do it. After the benediction, spoken by Father Bundy, who really missed an LHS function, I made my way through the milling friends and relatives to where Harry was standing alone in his billowy black gown, holding his diploma in one hand and his rendered mortar board on the other. I took his hat so I could shake his hand. He grinned, exposed a set of teeth with many gaps and several leaners, but a sunny and engaging grin for all that. "Thanks for coming, Mr. Epping. Thanks so much." "It was my pleasure, and you can call me Jake. It's a little perk I accord to students who are old enough to be my father." He looked puzzled for a minute and laughed. "I guess I am, ain't I? Shish!" I laughed, too. Lots of people were laughing all around us. And there were tears, of course. What's hard for me comes easily to a great many people. "And that A plus. Shish! I never got an A plus in my whole life. Never expected one either." "You deserve it, Harry. So what's the first thing you're going to do as a high school graduate?" His smile dimmed for a second. This was a prospect he hadn't considered. "I guess I'll go back home. I got a little house I rent on Goddard Street, you know." He raised the diploma, holding it carefully by the fingertips, as if the ink might smear. "I'll frame this and hang it on the wall. Then I guess I'll pour myself a glass of wine and sit on the couch and just admire it until bedtime." "Sounds like a plan," I said. "But would you like to have a burger and some fries with me first? We could go down to Al's." I expected a wince at that, but of course I was judging Harry by my colleagues. Not to mention most of the kids we taught. They avoided Al's like the plague and tended to patronize either the Dairy Queen across from the school or Hi Hat out on 196, near where the old Lisbon drive-in used to be. "That'd be great, Mr. Epping. Thanks." "Jake, remember?" "Jake, you bet." So I took Harry to Al's, where I was the only faculty regular, and although he actually had a waitress that summer, Al served us himself. As usual, a cigarette, illegal in public eating establishments, but that never stopped Al. He smoldered in one corner of his mouth, and the eye on that side squinted against the smoke. When he saw the folded-up graduation robe and realized what the occasion was, he insisted on picking up the check. What check there was, the meals at Al's were always remarkably cheap, which had given rise to rumors about the fate of certain stray animals in the vicinity. He also took a picture of us, which he later hung on what he called the town wall of celebrity. Other celebrities on the course represented included the late Albert Dunton, founder of Dunton Jewelry, Earl Higgins, a former LHS principal, John Crafts, founder of John Crafts Auto Sales, and of course Father Bandy St. Cyril's. The father was paired with Pope John the 23rd, the latter not local but revered by Al Templeton, who called himself the Good Catholic. The picture Al took that day showed Harry Dunning with a big smile on his face. I was standing next to him, and we were both holding his diploma. His tie was pulled slightly askew. I remember that because it made me think of those little squiggles he put on the ends of his lowercase y's. I remember it all. I remember it very well. 2. 2 years later, on the last day of the school year, I was sitting in that very same teacher's room and reading my way through a batch of final essays my American Poetry Honors Seminar had written. The kids themselves had already left, turned loose for another summer, and soon I would do the same. But for the time being, I was happy enough where I was, enjoying the unaccustomed quiet. I thought I might even clean out the snack cupboard before I left. Someone ought to do it, I thought. Earlier that day, Harry Dunning had limped up to me after homeroom period, which had been particularly screechy as all homerooms and study halls tend to be on the last day of school, and offered me his hand. "I just want to thank you for everything," he said. I grinned. "You already did that, as I remember." Yeah, but this is my last day. I'm retiring, so I wanted to make sure and thank you again." As I shook his hand, A kid cruising by, no more than a sophomore, judging by the fresh crop of pimples and serio-comic straggle on his chin that aspired to goateehood, muttered, "Hop to it, Harry, hopping down the AVA. I grabbed for him, my intention to make him apologize, but Harry stopped me. His smile was easy and unoffended. "Nah, don't bother. I'm used to it. They're just kids." "That's right," I said, "and it's our job to teach them." "I know, and you're good at it. But it's not my job to be anybody's, teachable moment, especially not today. I hope you'll take care of yourself, Mr. Epping." He might be old enough to be my father, but Jake was apparently always going to be beyond him. "You too, Harry." "I'll never forget that A+. I framed that, too. Got it right up beside my diploma." "Good for you." And it was. It was all good. His essay had been primitive art, but every bit as powerful and true as any painting by Grandma Moses. It was certainly better than the stuff I was currently reading. The spelling in the honors essay was mostly correct, and the diction was clear, although my cautious college-bound "don't take it chances" had an irritating tendency to fall back on the passive voice. But the writing was pallid, boring. My honors kids were juniors. Max Stedman, the department head, awarded the seniors to himself, but wrote like little old men and little old ladies, all pursy-mouthed, and ooh, "Don't slip on that icy patch, Mildred." In spite of his grammatical lapses and painstaking cursive, Harry Dunning had written like a hero, on one occasion at least. As I was musing on the difference between offensive and defensive writing, the intercom on the wall cleared its throat. "Is Mr. Epping in the West Wing teacher's room? You by any chance still there, Jake?" I got up, thumbed the button, and said, "Still there, Gloria. For my sins, can I help you?" "You have a phone call. Guy named Al Templeton. I can transfer it, if you want. Or I can tell him you left for the day." Al Templeton, owner and operator of Al's Diner, where all LHS faculty save for yours truly refused to go. Even my esteemed department head, who tried to talk like a Cambridge Don was approaching retirement age himself, had been known to refer to the specialty of the house as Al's famous cat burger instead of Al's famous fat burger. "Well, of course, it's not really cat," people would say. Probably not cat, but it can't be beef. Not at $1.19. "Jake, did you fall asleep on me?" "Nope, wide awake." Also curious as to why Al would call me at school. Why did call me at all, for that matter. Ours had always been a strictly cook and client relationship. I appreciated his chow, and he appreciated my patronage. "Go on, put him through." "Why are you still there anyway?" "I'm flagellating myself." "Ooh," Gloria said, and I could imagine her fluttering her long lashes. "I love it when you talk dirty. Hold on and wait for the ring-a-ding." She clicked off. The extension rang, and I picked it up. "Jake, you on there, buddy?" At first, I thought Gloria must have gotten the name wrong. That voice couldn't belong to Al. Not even the world's worst cold could have produced such a croak. "Who is this?" "Al Templeton. Didn't she tell you?" "Christ, that hold music really sucks. Whatever happened to Connie Francis?" He began to ratchet coughs loud enough to make me hold the phone away from my ear a little. "You sound like you got the flu." He laughed. He also kept coughing. The combination was fairly gruesome. "I got something, all right." "It must have hit you fast." I had been in just yesterday to grab an early supper. A fat burger, fries, and a strawberry milkshake. I believe it's important for a guy living on his own to hit all the major food groups. "You could say that, or you could say it took a while. Either one would be right." I didn't know how to respond to that. I'd had a lot of conversations with Al in the 6 or 7 years. I'd been going to the diner, and he could be odd. Insisted on referring to the New England patrons as the Boston Patriots, for instance, and talked about Ted Williams as if he'd known him like a brother. And I'd never had a conversation as weird as this. "Jake, I need to see you. It's important." "Can I ask?" "I expect you to ask plenty, and I'll answer, but not over the phone." I didn't know how many answers he'd be able to give me before his voice gave out, but I promised I'd calm down in an hour or so. "Thanks. Make it even sooner, if you can. Time is, as they say, of the essence. And he hung up, just like that, without even a goodbye. I wandered my way through two more of the honors essays, and there were only four more in the stack, but it was no good. I'd lost my groove, so I swept the stack into my briefcase and left. It crossed my mind to go upstairs to the office and wish Gloria a good summer, but I didn't bother. She'd be in all next week, closing the books on another school year, and I was going to come in on Monday and clean out the snack cupboard. That was a promise I'd make to myself. Otherwise, the teachers who use the West Wing teachers' room during summer session would find it crawling with bugs. If I'd known what the future held for me, I certainly would have gone up to see her. I might even have given her the kiss that had been flirting in the air between us for the last couple of months. But of course, I didn't know. Life turns on a dime.